Well, welcome to this month's Blue Family News Q&A session brought to you by Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha. I'm Ken Bader. I'm the CEO of the POCUA. That is less important than the fact that we have another great guest today. His name is Jim McCabe. He is the Executive Vice President of ID Theft Solutions. He is not only the main contact that Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha works with to provide ID theft solutions and recovery. The recovery is a big part of that. Personally, I've known Jim and worked with Jim for several years, and I use the exact same service that Jim is going to talk about today. And I personally, as a consumer, find it to be very valuable. I could go on and on, but Jim, welcome to our Q&A.
Thank you so much, Ken. It's great to be with you again. And Mary, appreciate the opportunity to actually address your folks at the credit union. This is great because you guys have been such a tremendous supporter of this solution for your members, and at such an amazing time in the world to have it. Timing is everything, and people really need this badly today. So I really appreciate the chance to delve into whatever questions you have.
Yeah, I'm going to delve into one of the obvious ones, but one point I do want to make on recording from the perspective of being the CEO of the POCUA, while we have several great police credit unions in that consortium, there are only a few that offer this ID theft recovery and solution. One is obviously Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha, and the Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha is the only one of all the police credit unions, not only in our association, but anywhere in the country, that offer what I call a triple protection. Including Jim McCabe's Vero ID theft solution. In addition to that, Police Federal Credit Union offers the killed in the line of duty insurance, and officerprivacy.com, which I believe possibly only one other credit union in the entire country that serves law enforcement offers that kind of triple coverage. So I want to make that as a really specific note. It wasn't planned, but I think that is really key for any of the law enforcement families that are listening to this. But let's get to Jim. Jim actually came here to answer questions. So let's get to Jim. And yeah, I think that the number one question is, how much risk is an individual taking if they don't have ID theft protection and recovery, whether it be through Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha or anybody else?
Great question. And it is, I think, an essential in today's world. I would never want anybody that I know not to have it. All my kids have it, and everybody that I know that's a friend of mine, I try to make sure everybody has this protection, because what's happening in the world today is unprecedented, and the amount of attacks that are happening on people at such an alarming rate. And what we have found in history is that as technology has progressed, the more technology that's out there for people to access information and data, that has made us that much more susceptible to the cyber threats that are happening over and over again. And there's a lot of solutions out there that I've heard of over the years. I was just at a conference recently they were talking about blockchain technology. There's lots of things out there that are hopefully going to be coming around that really can provide some kind of protection. But in the end, unfortunately, the fact remains that if you don't have this kind of protection, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of nightmares, many of which I've heard stories of people going through just horrific situations with different forms of identity theft. But you could say today that what's happening, this recent study came out saying one in four people now in this country face some form of a fraud or ID theft event at some point in time, or have been hit by one in the last year or so. There's also a study just came out recently saying 1 in 3 people are being attacked by scams of all different kinds that are out there today. And they're just so deceptive in terms of how they do it and how they attack you. And it can be, unfortunately, what people don't realize is that when you think of identity theft, especially probably through the credit union, people think if they get it, it's attached to their checking account, like it's just protecting their checking account. And people don't understand that this protects their whole life in terms of what's being provided. So not just financial threats that can happen to you, but the non-financial stuff. And the criminals today have recognized, they're very smart people, that the vast majority of people in our country have now had access to or are utilizing some form of credit monitoring. And if they know that, the last thing they want to do is set off your credit monitoring alarm. So they're now doing deceptive, what we call non-financial attacks that don't set off that alarm, but can have just as much an effect on screwing up your life than a financial attack. And we're talking about medical fraud, which skyrocketed during COVID. They knew everybody was distracted, everybody was vulnerable. So medical fraud is a huge one. Another one is what would they call utilities, phony utilities fraud. Another one has been the unemployment benefits fraud. That one fraud, and almost every credit union I've talked to in the last year, when I say that, not unemployment, they all shake their head because some of their members have been affected by that. Our CFO of our company had it happen to her. They're indiscriminate in terms of who they go after. But this unemployment benefits fraud is a non-financial attack that will not set off your credit monitoring. So you don't find out about it as happening until you get a letter from the IRS telling you owe them taxes on benefits you took advantage of.
And that you didn't even have.
So people really, and this, for example, I could send you an article that 500,000, over 500,000 people were affected by this in New York City alone when it happened in 2020. So it increased it in that much. So yes, people really need this kind of protection. It's so essential to their lives and also the lives of their family members. And that's something else that's really awesome about the coverage that comes through the protection of the credit union. Is doesn't just protect the member, it's extended to their members, to the member's family as well.
Yeah, it's probably already answered my next question. I'll segue to it, but it reminds me of some of the things that, you know, I speak to with a number of first responders, and 9 out of 10 of them agree with me. And it's an unfortunate fact of life is that safety is a myth. Yeah, I think that, you know, a lot of times we say, all right, well, we got this service, we're safe. While we're inside, we're safe. You know, all of these things. I mean, I liken it to, you know, I live in California, and in 1 second you're safe, and then the next second the earthquake starts and you're not safe. So it's a myth. That doesn't mean that we need to live in fear, but it does mean that we need to be both vigilant and embrace reality. And the reality today is, you know, we obviously don't have good relations with Russia. We don't have good relations with China. And just because you might be a very intelligent police detective, you know, doesn't mean that you're not going to wind up in some type of fraud, some type of theft, whether it be ID or you know, house theft. You know, people actually steal deeds, from what I understand. You know, so yeah, talk a little bit about the depth of what we're seeing in this type of fraud and ID theft today.
Well, yeah, it is there. I often tell people, I can't believe how intelligent the criminals are. And I say, why don't they get a real job? You know, but
doesn't pay as well, apparently.
That is the exact answer, because I asked that question to an FBI guy one day. Oh my gosh, why don't they get a real? He goes, because they get paid too much money and they make it so much faster being, you know, a criminal. And that's really a sad state of our society. But, you know, the thing that blows my mind is that when I started doing this about 10 years ago, identity theft was really just like coming into the consciousness of people. And at that time, that's when Target happened. Remember the Target breach?
Yeah.
That was the first major breach that ever happened that opened the eyes to people in the world about, oh my gosh, this is affecting me, because that affected hundreds of millions of people across the country. But even back then, that was like almost 10 years ago, 1 in 10 individuals back then were being affected by identity theft. That's 10%. And I just said a minute ago, it's now 1 in 4. It's now 25% of our population is now being affected by these things. And people, I think, as you said just a second ago, very, very good. I call it an illusion. Security is an illusion. People think that they're in a secure place because they're, and yes, credit unions do a great job of protecting the accounts that are within their, credit union, and they're phenomenal at it. But what the credit unions don't know is what's happening to them outside the walls of the credit union that are affecting the members. And that's where Mary has stepped up with with the rest of the management of the credit union to make sure that they're doing everything above and beyond the call of duty to help the members know they have someplace they can go if God forbid anything happens to them. And the other beauty of the services that Mary offers is that you do not have to prove you have an identity theft happening to access these advocates. It can be done based on suspicion alone, which is very, very unusual in this industry. Most of these companies that provide types of services like identity theft protection, they demand that you prove you have an identity theft happening before they'll dedicate the resources to helping you. That's not true with what Mary offers through the credit union. It's the most, and I've used it several times myself with suspicious scenarios. Ones that weren't even really what you would call identity theft, but the advocates helped me anyway. And they're tremendous service people. They really are more of like a concierge at a hotel. Because if you're in a hotel and you want to get something done, you don't go to the front desk, because the front desk will just tell you how to do it yourself. You go to the concierge, and the concierge goes above and beyond, right? They want to really serve you. So that's really what Mary's offering in terms of these services. But yeah, the depth of this, as you said, is really getting scary today in terms of what's happening out there in the world, and how they can be so deceptive. I'll tell you a really quick story. It happened to me literally a month ago. I was staying with my parents in Pennsylvania, visiting them. They're 90 years old, and they wanted to watch this particular program that wasn't on their TV, but I knew it was available through Prime Video. So I have a Prime Video account. So I went into their smart TV and I started loading in my Prime Video information. And as I was doing that, it always asks you to do a verification on your phone.
Right.
Did that verification on my phone. And as soon as I did that, I got an immediate email pop up. And with all these warning things going off saying, hey, we've just realized you've had an attack. Somebody's accessed your bank account. You've had an identity theft happen to you to the tune of $500. Please call this number immediately. It was early in the morning. I hadn't had my coffee yet. So I made the phone call. And I called them up, and I wasn't quite suspicious yet. And I called them up and I go, what is going on with, I got this notice. Say, oh, thank you for calling us. Yes, you've had this happen to you. You actually have had, we believe, up to $1,500 worth of cryptocurrency stolen from your account. And that's when my alarm started going. I don't deal in cryptocurrency yet. So I was like saying, I don't think so. That sounds really weird. I don't have cryptocurrency. They said, well, we definitely have somebody that's debited $500 out of your account. Will you open up your account? And so I went into my account on my phone to check. I wanted to see if there's any activity going on and see if they were right. I was on my phone for no more than 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, you know what started happening? My screen on my phone started moving without me. They got into my phone because I made the phone call to them. It was so scary. I hung up immediately. And I then called my bank. And I said, oh my God. I said, I don't know what just happened. I said, but I was on the phone with somebody. It was really fishy. I told them the story. They said, how long were you on for? I said, I was on for 2 minutes. They said, we have to close every one of your accounts right now. I was like shocked that they did it. So they made it sound like they were so helpful to me and they really wanted to protect me. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I know this stuff. And they had me going. I can't imagine somebody else. And actually, I had a really good, he's actually a business customer who became a friend. very, very intelligent man, lives in Florida. He called me up 2 months ago, told me a very similar story to him. He lost in excess of $25,000 worth of crypto
Yeah.
because they had him on the phone for an hour and it was
Mhm.
going on and on and on. And they got into his account. He sent them a crypto and he was begging me, Jim, what can you do? How can you help me? And I said, when it's crypto, there's nothing you can do. You can't get it back.
Yeah.
That's why they always come at you with it's crypto against you. You think you can save it
Right.
fast and you can't do it that quickly. So anyway, yes, the depth of what is happening out there today is really scary, and you can be a very intelligent person and they can still, fool you very easily.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up to questions in a minute, but I think it's critical to drive home this point because we've got a lot of intelligent members at Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha. I mean, people that have solved crimes, people that have put people in jail, and think, all right, well, I could catch this. But here, you are. I think that even if you had that first cup of coffee, you would still have gotten messed up. But I mean, to that point, I've never been in law enforcement, but I've worked with police for decades, and I've been in banking for over 35 years. So 99% of the time, I catch this stuff when I see it as a text, as an email, as a phone call, and so forth. But I drive this home. This is a couple years ago. I do use PayPal. And this is how clever these guys are. They sent an email and it looked just like PayPal. Now, usually I could tell, usually there's a misspelling or there's something that's phonetically spelled rather than grammatically spelled, or the logo's a little bit off. This looked just like PayPal. And I almost clicked on it as I was looking at it on my phone. I'm like, yeah, something's telling me that I shouldn't, but this looks real. And I looked and I'm like, you know what? That's not the email that I have connected with my PayPal account. They wouldn't necessarily be emailing me to this. And I looked, one of the things that I do, and this is important for people to know, is I look at the sender's email address. Because many times they're not that bright to do something a little bit more complex. They'll do, PayPal 57215 at Gmail. Well, it's so obvious that it's fraud. This one was actually a name at paypal.com. And I'm like, now that's unusual. But I looked a little bit closer, and the L was not an L in PayPal. It was actually, I think, the number 1, which looked really, really close. And fortunately, I didn't click on it, but I'm like, hey, you're pretty clever. I almost want to give you kudos for being that close. But that's how smart some of these people are. And that's how easy, even for people that are not only intelligent, but understand all this stuff like you and I, can come within a hair of getting nabbed by some of this. Before I go back to Jim with any questions, does anybody in our audience have any questions for Jim?
Maybe more just statements to support what both of you have said, and that is that our senior members, we've had them, some of our senior members be duped on the phone to give information, that kind of thing, and then they panic, or sometimes they're embarrassed and they won't call, and they need to call so that we can help protect them. But any of us on any given day can be caught off guard, just like Jim talked about. You're busy doing, you haven't had your coffee, or you're in the middle of a big project and then you see this and you're like, oh, you don't give yourself time enough to focus. So it's so important to check that so closely. If you're vision impaired where you need readers, and you know what, maybe you wouldn't be able to tell that L from a 1. So it's just, you have to be meticulous. But we have always felt like that because we serve law enforcement and their families, that they are potentially even more of a target for this type of fraudulent activity. And they can not only mess with their finances, but they can mess with their career. Yep. And so that's why our board and our management team felt so strongly about this product. And we've had to have, we've had members that have had to actually use it.
Yeah. Great point, Mary. Really, really great point. And going back, Ken, a little bit in terms of what you were talking about, what I what I think the criminals are so good at is actually stealing the trust.
Mhm.
They gain your trust. And like you said, it was PayPal. People are familiar with PayPal, but some of the biggest, brands out there that you'll see them trying to use as a phishing brand background, LinkedIn and Microsoft and Amazon. These are all names that people are seeing all the time. They feel comfortable with it. And so they'll use that in terms of trying to gain people's trust. And that's how they got me, because I was utilizing because I used Amazon, obviously, is Prime Video.
Mhm.
So that's what I was going through Prime Video, and the email that came to me that told me I was having a problem was an Amazon logoed email. And that's what caught my, so I thought, oh, this might be legitimate. So that's that also led me to make that call, just like you felt very, very, like PayPal had you come in, like, that sounds like it could be.
Mhm.
But yes, so true. And, it's, and they're so deceptive. You're right, man. Even law enforcement people have a really hard time. I have one of my associates and has a really good friend who's an FBI agent, and that FBI agent was going for a mortgage,
Mhm.
and he got a notice back from the bank saying your social security number is compromised. You have issues.
Mhm.
And he goes, oh, well, I'll handle this. He was actually a cybersecurity guy with the FBI, says, I'll fix this. He tried to fix it. He was working on it for 48 hours. He couldn't get anywhere. And he turned to the services, the kind of services that Mary's members have access to in terms of an advocate. And the advocate fixed it in 48 hours.
Mhm.
And fixed everything for him and allowed him to get his mortgage. And he was so amazed that as an FBI agent, he couldn't get it fixed.
Yeah.
So it's not easy when you're facing these things. You don't know the right buttons to push, you don't know the right people to call. And that's what these advocates are so good at. And without a doubt, you talked about your seniors, Mary. That is the focal group that is so vulnerable, because especially through the COVID thing, right? I mean, through the pandemic, here you have the most vulnerable people for the pandemic are absolutely in a state of pure terror and, confusion, distraction, whatever you want to call it. And the criminals know they can prey upon that and prey upon that fear. And they've took advantage of so many people, so many, seniors, literally $1 billion in losses in 2020 as a result of that with seniors, 1 billion against seniors alone. So yeah, and it's something that it just gets scarier by the moment sometimes in terms of how deceptive and how evil they can be
Mhm.
in terms of who they attack. And they do not care who you
Yeah.
are, what you're doing, and what your place in life is. They just want to get your money and run.
Yeah, for the record, people tell me that I have issues every day, but it's generally not with my finances. While I want to keep this educational and I don't want to turn this into kind of an infomercial, I think it's important to just take a minute, and maybe it's Jim, maybe it's somebody from Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha. Yeah, explain, how easy it is to actually take advantage of ID theft, protection, and recovery at Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha. If you're a member of this credit union, how easy is it to take advantage of it?
First of all, the package of services that Mary has basically embedded within their checking account, just by owning the checking account, they not only get all the checking services that are phenomenal with that checking account, but they also get the services of the identity theft package. And it's not just recovery restoration, which I think, as you said earlier, Ken, perhaps the greatest core benefit of everything is the ability to know it'll be fixed if something happens.
Mhm.
But they also provide one bureau monitoring, which is basically all you really need in today's world. Because again, the criminals know that people have monitoring, but the great thing that Mary's package has is dark web monitoring. And with dark web monitoring, that's where you're able to input information to be monitored, such as your social security number, your name and address, your phone number. And your phone number, folks, is as important today in your life as your social security number. Why? Because it's used for verification and authentication of almost everyone's 401k and a lot of other places to have access to finances. You got to have that phone number. So they want your phone number. So you really want to be monitoring who has access and who may be utilizing your phone number out there on the dark web. There's also information you can load in: credit card information, passport information, driver's license information. This is the more you load into the dark web side of that monitoring on the system, the more protected you can be. We also, or I should say we, Mary's package includes also what we call Score Tracker, which is also a phenomenal service that every month you're going to get an email that reminds you that your score is available for viewing. And not only will it give you your score, which is called the Vantage score, which is an average of the 3 bureaus. So it gives you a really great overall average of where you stand, but it also shows you your score over the last 6 months and how you're performing and how is it tracking. And for me, it's very useful too, because I think it's great. Another great add-on to the credit monitoring, because if your score drops 30 or 40 points in a given month and you don't think you touched your credit, that's an alarm. That's a suspicious activity. Now you can call that advocate and say, why would my credit score go down so drastically? And I don't think I touched my credit. Is somebody playing with my credit? And I actually had that happen to me once, and it came back and I found out that it was indirect credit usage that I had that I didn't remember. But it was just a great thing, because when he also called me back and was giving me the information on it, he said, oh, by the way, do you know that if you get rid of X, Y, and Z off of your credit report, your score will go up? So, I mean, he didn't have to offer that to me when I was talking to him, but that's the kind of concierge quality service you're going to get from the people when you're talking to them. Then, of course, there is the fully managed recovery. And I can't stress enough to people to remember that this isn't just fully managed recovery about things that happen to you with regards to the credit union. This is everything in your life. This could be somebody, attacking your credit card that might be at a different institution. It could be your driver's license. It could be somebody stole your passport. It could be almost anything, but it's anything outside the walls of the credit union is also protected, along with your family members. And people forget that too, that their family is protected as part of this whole program. And then last but not least, those were all identity theft related types of services. Then Mary has also provided with this package a mobile phone protection, which is outrageous. It's an opportunity to get your phone fixed basically for free. Over the course of a year, you have the ability to get 2 claims against that for $500 a piece, which adds up to, when you have a $50 deductible, $900 worth of fixes you can get on your phone throughout the course of a year. And I can't tell you how many people I know walking around with a cracked screen on their phone, and they just don't want to pay $150 to get it fixed. And they could literally pay $50 and get it fixed through this program. So anyway, the package that is there for the members to use is just so powerful. I can tell you for a fact that if a member tried to go access that package of services online on the internet, it would cost them in excess of $60 a month. Easily $60. And I forget, Mary, what you're at, but I know it's a lot less. Are you under $5? Are you at $5? I can't remember.
We're at $3.50.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's almost free.
It is going to go up to $4 January 1. So,
well, justified.
But along those lines, I will tell you that one of my emails was found on the dark web a couple of times, and I got a notice to, immediately change my password, which I did. So I've had no other issues. And I actually had to do a phone repair. It's been a couple of years ago, but first time I ever broke a screen on my phone. And it was the simplest process that I had ever done. If for a member, they're going to call us. We're going to direct them how this unfolds. We get a case number out there. I go out and I was able to, I could still read my phone screen, luckily. Otherwise, I could have done it on the computer screen. But reached out to a local vendor and got a quote, forwarded that on to the advocate, and got it approved, took it over, had it fixed, had the 50, it was $375 to fix it. And so I had my $50 deductible. I had my check for my $325 within a week back on this from the insurance. So, and all of this was done from beginning to end in less than an hour and a half. Because it takes them an hour to fix it. So, and with my drive time, you know, to take it over to the place to be fixed. So, I mean, I was amazed at how slick the process was.
And you know, that's also a matter of safety. I know how many people are driving and looking at their phone at the same time. And people, if you have a cracked screen, because I've had them, I don't have one now, but I've had them at times. And it's not easy to read things. You're getting distracted by your phone, and it could be really a safety scenario with yourself as well. So, but people just put it off and they put it off and they put it off because it is expensive to get that stuff done. Here's something really cool about that insurance, Mary, is that so many other insurance programs with regards to phones, they won't fix it unless the phone's inoperable. A lot of times they will not fix that screen unless the phone is inoperable. And that's another beautiful aspect of the kind of insurance you have available to your members. Doesn't matter if it's a cosmetic thing and it's still functioning, they'll fix the cosmetic thing and they'll include it in the insurance. So that's a really tremendous benefit of the program. Awesome. That's really a great story. I didn't know that you had used it. I know that people often ask me, you know, what, you know, can people do beyond having the checking account and this tremendous service from the credit union available to them? What else can they be doing to try to, you know, protect themselves against having it happen? And the number one, and this comes from straight from the FBI. It's awareness, awareness, awareness. You have to have your eyes wide open in today's world all the time. And it's sad. It's a sad note of our society, but you got to be aware of your surroundings, what's happening. And when it comes to emails, when it comes to financial transactions you're doing over the phone, over the internet, think twice before you click.
Yeah.
Think twice. Ask yourself, am I really, really sure? And, you know, because if you have that little butterfly in your stomach that you're kind of unsure, don't do it.
Yeah.
Wait and don't do it. Think about it a little bit more, investigate a little bit more, because usually your gut is right. And never give any kind of access to your accounts in any way, shape, or form, obviously, that you would ever do in terms of giving out any information about, you know, especially bank accounts, no less any other kinds of accounts. They have the ability to take a little bit of information and blow it up against you. And sometimes all they're looking for is just a little bit more information about you. Because unfortunately, I'm going to say this to everybody right now, whether you want to believe it or not, the criminals have our information. There's been so many breaches in the world over the course of the last 15 years. They have our information many times over. They just might be missing a little piece of it that they need from you to complete it and make something really happen against you. So hold back information against people. Again, eyes wide open, be aware of what your surroundings are. And again, think twice before you click on anything, especially emails that say, you know, go to this link, don't do it. And they say, click on this attachment, don't do it. Those are the ones that are very, very suspicious. So, but great questions, Ken. And I think, Mary, you're really offering your members at $350. Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were at $350. That is just an amazing value proposition, off the charts in terms of what that means to an individual. So I hope your members can hear this, and that people will be you know, flocking to the credit union to open a checking account, because they'd be crazy not to.
Yeah, agreed. That's a great way to end, because that was going to be my final question. And I think too, for anybody, obviously in the state of Nebraska, the state of Iowa, the state of South Dakota, that is in law enforcement, for this product alone, there are other great products, but for this product alone, you should give Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha a very, very close look. And one last tip, which I think, you know, probably the only thing we didn't cover is, you know, as Jim said, if you have that butterfly, You know, even if you're on the phone with somebody, you got an email, whatever, you know what, just say, you know what, I'm going to call my financial institution. Every time that I've done that, when somebody legitimate has been on the other side of the call, is, oh yeah, that's no problem. I've even had it where I've hung up the phone kindly, called my financial institution, gotten back to that same person, and that person says, no, I have no problem with that. More people should be doing that. Yeah, now you know, that you're talking to your financial institution. And I'm going to go out on a limb that if anybody is uncertain as to whether somebody from Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha is communicating with them, if you call Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha, they'll be more than happy to say, yes, that was us, or no, that wasn't us, and we're really glad you called. So, I'm glad that you were able to come on this Q&A, Jim. As always, a wealth of knowledge, wealth of information. Thank you for your time. And thank you to all of you who have watched this taped video of the Blue Family News Q&A session. And we'll be back with you really soon with another session. Thank you for watching the Blue Family News Q&A series, brought to you by Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha. To learn more about Police Federal Credit Union of Omaha, go to opfcu.net.